presented by our friends at the British Council. Hey everybody, Matt McCarthy here at the Fantasy Sports Network, Studio 34 on West 35th Street in New York City for Rugby Wrap-Up, and we have a big show for you today. We have Tiffany Faaee and Koma Gandy Fischbein in the studio with us. We're also going to have another guest calling in, Mr. Chris Wiles, who is going to be calling in from England to talk about his Wolfpack Lager, but unfortunately he could not be with us, so we are just going to feature his hat instead. Anyway, ladies, you two have unbelievable resumes, which make me feel like a bit more of a nitwit than I usually do. But we're family here. We're family. We're New York Rugby Club family, right?
Yes.
Tiff, for the folks at home that don't know this, you are the current captain of not only the New York Rugby Club, the coolest rugby club on the planet, but you are also the captain of the Team USA Women's 15s program. And Koma, your list is about 8 miles long of things that are on you. You went to Harvard for undergrad. You got your MBA at Georgetown. You've been playing rugby all over the place. You've got a great rugby coaching resume on top of all that, and you are now the coach of the Navy men's sevens team as well as the Village Lions sevens teams?
Yes.
These are both men's teams?
Yes.
Come on, this can't happen. This is not allowed. I mean, I don't think...
Nobody told me.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So, all right, ladies, couple of topics I want to talk about with you guys. But before we do, big news is the Barbarians. The side that's been traveling around the globe since, I want to say, 1890, has announced that they're going to have a women's side.
Wow.
What?
That's amazing.
What do you think?
I mean, considering that type of team, and it also allows the women to play together with other players that we've played against, it's a huge step for us.
So I got to say, your performance in the Rugby World Cup and you with your teammates for the Eagles was just phenomenal, and it was to the point where I'm screaming at the computer in my apartment watching women's 15s, and it was no longer women's rugby; it was just really good rugby. Right. You know, and we have George Hook, who is the mature Irish pundit who calls in from Dublin, and he was actually our Rugby Wrap-Up Women's World Cup correspondent calling in, and he said the same thing. He said he wasn't watching women's rugby, he was just watching high-quality rugby. So kudos to you.
That's really good to hear. Yeah, that was a lot of the feedback that we got. A lot of people just amazed, and some were surprised. And you know, we won a lot of people over as well.
Oh, you ran a lot of people over too. That was part of it.
I mean, that was the plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rest of it was just a huge bonus. The way we came together and to be able to put on those performances at that level is incredible. And I know, just a little glimpse of what can come ahead, you know, with a bit more work and a bit more organisation at our end. I'm looking forward to, you know, the next cycle, moving on from that momentum.
What was it like for you playing against Kiwis? Because you were born in Auckland. I mean, you were born in California, but you were raised in Auckland.
Yeah. I mean, people assume that me knowing those players meant that we played together, but we actually played against them as well, because we're all over from New Zealand. So a lot of them I played against representative side when I played for North Harbour. Some of them represented Auckland, Wellington, Canterbury. So as much as it was different, you know, playing against them in those jerseys, it wasn't new or anything. I think the only thing that was probably different was not singing to the Kiwi anthem, because it's something you grew up singing.
Yeah, sure.
Singing for. But no, it was still the same. Like, growing up, you just know that on the field you're not mates. You just want to respect each other and play good rugby, and then come off the field and be mates again. So that's how it was.
That second half, I said there were 2 World Cup instances for Team USA in which you were really just like waiting for the second half to take off, and that was the first experience I had was the men's Eagles in the 2015 World Cup against Scotland, where they went in with a lead, and your match against the All Blacks. It was just the second half couldn't come soon enough. What was the defining moment for you on the pitch that said, "Wow, we've pretty much arrived"?
I think we were like 15, 20 minutes in when we looked up at the scoreboard and we were up. But that wasn't actually the same, a very similar squad. Our first tour together, when we played New Zealand and Canada, and we also went into the changing rooms up as well. So we knew that for the first 40, we just had to hang with them, and then it was who could, put it together more for the second. And New Zealand just were a bit more disciplined in a few areas than us, and that's how they took that lead and then just got momentum.
Koma, you're a rugby player. You were in the player pool for Team USA, I think, in 2003 to 5. What were you thinking as a fan watching this stuff go on? Because people like you really paved the way for the women's program.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly gratifying because you see how hard these women are working, you see the effort that they're putting in, and to have it showcased on the world stage is such an amazing thing to see. And that there's such a huge rugby family of generations of rugby players who played for the love of the game, but also played so that there would be the opportunity for women to take it to the next level. So it is incredibly, and we're really prideful that there's so many people who are doing so well and showcasing the best of rugby, not just the best of American rugby, the best of rugby in an international arena. It's fantastic, and I could not be more proud to be part of the sport and to have played back in the day and watching these young folks who now, I knew it was time to retire when I could give birth to some of the people that I was playing on the field with.
Right here on the show. We're going to have it right here. Right, that's true story. Right here.
But it's just fantastic to see, and I couldn't be happier to see the success of the women's program.
And were you watching some of their sevens players sprint around the field and say, hey, I'm going to use some of that strategy coaching the men's Navy squad in sevens, right? I mean, it's just, I know it's not much of a segue, but it's an unbelievable thing. Also, in the same period of time, you're now coaching the men's sevens for Navy, and we saw you guys have a great performance out in Glendale.
Yes.
Personally.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
Well, the way that I look at it, I've been sort of orbiting around the all-Navy family for a very long time. When I was on
you
active,
were 15 years in service?
For 15 years.
Yeah.
15 years.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Well, when I was on active duty, and unfortunately it still hasn't happened yet, there was no Navy Women's Sevens program in the fleet for people who were out there on active duty who wanted to play sevens
Really?
and represent their branch of service. It's coming, but it's been a long time. And I was lucky enough to have a group of folks who were part of the All-Navy men's program, which was 15s at the time, who really welcomed me into the fold, respected me as an athlete, and they kind of treated me as sort of an unofficial part of the All-Navy family. Even if I couldn't be there on orders, I couldn't obviously play with these guys, but they really welcomed me into the program and treated me as if I were part of the All-Navy family. And since 2000, I think it was a 15s tournament in Pensacola, I've been sort of involved in a way, in the sense that I've always wanted to keep up and see what was happening, but of course there wasn't an official capacity for me to be part of it. Then the Armed Forces Sports Board decided to fund sevens and no longer fund 15s, specifically because there's now an Olympic pathway for sevens players. And I happened upon them at a tournament in 2013 at the CRCs when they had a military bracket there specifically
for
the
in
men's
camo?
sevens program. No, they could see me.
All right, okay. You said you happened upon them.
Hiding in the bushes and just popped up. But it was from that experience when I reconnected with them, and they had a sevens program that was up and running, and I said, I want to be part of this. And they were gracious enough to let me be part of it unofficially. I paid my own way to a couple of tournaments, came on as an assistant coach last year, and then when the spot vacated, I said, you know what, I think now's the time for me to step up and put my application in and see if I can make a go of this. And in February of last year, they said, congratulations, you're the new All-Navy men's sevens coach. And after I came back down from the clouds, it was time to go to work.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, but there are a couple of things I want to get back to. The way you happened upon them and then the spot vacated. I know that you're very well trained in the dark arts. So, ladies, we got to take a quick break. I'm being told by the producers we got to pay some bills, but we're also going to see in the break one of your village lions, village lion kings to be specific, Goose, try to do a on-camera rugby wrap-up sign-off. It's actually pretty funny.
This is MC Rob G, a.k.a. Robert Goose Greenewald of the Village Lions and the Lion Kings. Watch Rugby Wrap Up and look up MC Rob G and Big Knock, The Trumpet Blows. Peace out.
If you're just joining us, this is a big match and a big moment as Clijsters toes the line.
You know, John, Anderson has really been struggling out there today. Mistake as Clijsters clinches another title. Don't let your nutrition get in the way. USANA, the official multivitamin of the WTA.
Hey everybody, Matt McCarthy back at Rugby Wrap Up, Studio 34 at the Fantasy Sports Network. I am with Tiffany Faaee and Koma Gandy Fischbein. Koma, we left the audience with a cliffhanger of sorts. You said you happened upon the Navy program, and then the position was vacated. What happened?
The unofficial version or the classified?
Let's go with the good one.
So I had been asked to help administer the women's bracket at the CRCs in Philadelphia in 2013. So I was there basically making sure that the teams were properly registered, the paperwork was properly filled out to make sure that everything was properly done before the tournament. And I did not know that there was a military bracket until when I found out about it. I thought, you know, let me go say hello to the All-Navy team. And I happened upon an old friend of mine who's now the officer in charge of All-Navy Rugby, Commander Tom Jones, who I'd known from back in the day.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. Oh, had to go there, right?
I know.
He never gets that.
Oh, no, never.
Why? What? No, all right.
But yeah, so we reconnected, and I said, hey, look, I'd love to help out in any way I can, especially since, you know, sevens really is my passion and really enjoy the game. So he introduced me to the then coach, Steve Lynch. And
it wasn't Delilah?
It wasn't Delilah. But yeah, so that's how it picked up again in 2013, with me basically helping out as much as possible and then volunteering to go to Rugby Town Sevens, which is where the Armed Forces Championship took place. And really from there I earned really the trust of the athletes.
All right, so how did you become the head coach of the Sevens program?
Well, at the last assembly in 2016, Steve Lynch decided that it was time for him to step down. And I had built
Did you have your foot on his throat?
I can neither confirm nor deny. But it just seemed like the right time, and with the work that I put in on my own dime with the All-Navy program and the longevity that I had with it, I tell people I've been putting coins in that All-Navy bank since 2000 in Pensacola. And it was just the right time to step up and do it and put my application in, and here I am.
Well, that's awesome, and hopefully, I mean, we talked about it off camera a little bit, how it's been standard for men to be coaching women's teams, but the reciprocal, or the opposite of with women coaching men's team hasn't been even considered, and maybe you're breaking that mold.
Yeah, when the Village Lions also had a vacancy, and I was not, there's no stepping in necks or anything like that, but it just so happened that the Village Lions also had a longtime sevens coach who decided that it was time for him to move on. And when I found out about it, I hesitated a bit because I thought, is this going to work? Is this something that I want to put my foot into in terms of coaching a men's program, and how's that going to work? But it all sort of happened around the same time with the application for All-Navy and the application for Village Lions. And ultimately they decided that I was the right coach for them, regardless if I were male or female. It was really about my resume, what I brought to the table, my coaching philosophy, and what I thought I could do with the program. And I have a wonderful group of guys to work with, both with the Village Lions and with All-Navy. Couldn't ask for a better staff in 2017. So it was really a dream team, both from a staff perspective and from the men that I got to coach, both at the Lions and All-Navy. And it just magically came together at Rugby Town Sevens, all that hard work that we put in over 2 weeks.
That was a good performance by you guys. A great tournament. She's talking about a men's program, and I want to leapfrog over back to you with the men's program from Team USA. Plays a decent amount of test matches warming up for a World Cup. I was the media manager. I was with them on the road. We had some, you know, pretty tough matches, including playing Australia at Soldier Field, the Harlequins in Philadelphia. We played Canada a number of times. We played Japan. We played Samoa, Tonga. You guys didn't really have much of a test match warm-up schedule, did you?
No, Not towards the end, where typically a normal cycle you would, play towards leading up to the World Cup. I do think that, looking at our record, we did play some tough matches throughout the 3-year cycle. In fact, they were all really tough. We only had the 1 win out of the 9 games. New Zealand, England, France, Canada, they were the top 4 in the end at the World Cup. So I think if you look at it that way, we were challenged as a pool. But towards the end, when you would think, we'd be challenged more and where you would expect more games, we didn't have that luxury. And of course, as players, being told that we're going to be in a long camp instead, it was a different mindset. It's not what we expected, but we had to work with what we had. And it actually, overall, the feedback at the World Cup was how much it helped us in a different way. As much as we were tackling each other for a month, we were healthy, we were tight. It was like such a bond that I don't think we would have developed if they decided to let us travel and get together 2 weeks at a time. And then, you mentioned the game against the All-Stars as well. That's obviously, they're all part of the pool as well. They're players who put their hand up to come in, and they decided they were going to help us with our preparation. It was all an option for them, and it was something that we just needed some form of platform. And as much as it's not a challenge, like a typical challenge, playing people at the same level or whatever, these women, some of them are part of the pool. If we could take 60, you would see us in camp and those girls, right? Sure. But, they decided to help us, and it was a huge help. We took that footage away, and we used it for the whole month to study little areas that we wanted to work on. So
we had fellow teammate from the New York Rugby Club, Phaedra Knight, on that squad, right?
Yes, exactly. She was a captain of that squad.
Trying to crack the pool, perhaps, right?
So, a lot of them use that to prove, what they can bring to the table. And what was really good was they also showed how quickly they could come together as a squad, and that's a key skill that I think is important when you get to that level as well. So it wasn't the typical ideal. Is it something they're going to do again for the next cycle? I'm not sure, but compared to, they've tried the other ways and this was something different. It got us to where we did, but definitely areas to improve.
All right, you talk about different things and different approaches. You had a different approach to rugby, really. You didn't start playing until high school, and you also were playing a lot of rugby league.
Yes.
Right? And we've got different codes of rugby, as folks know. Sevens is a big one. It impacted your program with the 15s program a lot, because Tier 2, they go back and forth. You have a big proponent in Mike Friday, of the head coach of the Sevens team for the men, who is saying, not men's 15s Eagles should be front of shop. It should be sevens, and it should be, after this World Cup, the women's 15s program, because there's no legacy of 100 years that you have to fight against.
Right.
Right? So America really helped put women's 15s on the map in a lot of ways, historically speaking. And you don't have 100 years to make up, because your window can be quicker to catch. But I wanted to ask you, are you concerned, though, despite the success and the thrill for us watching that Women's World Cup, that sevens is going to be the end of 15s, specifically in light of England cutting contracts and devoting more to sevens?
No, it actually hadn't come to mind. It wasn't a concern of mine at all. I think after so many talks at the World Cup and with different captains as well with their programs, like everyone's got big plans to take more steps further. And what we did, with all the different unions, it's like they were getting much better feedback from people higher up in their organization of how much they want to support the women's, especially in the 15s program. So the sevens, we want that to grow, because I think it's actually growing in New Zealand, in USA, but on the back of that, I think it would essentially help 15s as well, just introducing rugby in general. And then girls growing up and choosing which one they prefer, because as much as people say it's the same, I think they're very different. All
right, and we're just, I got the producer telling us that we're basically out of time, but before we roll away from here, and we could talk all day long, and you guys are actually way too smart for me, so I just let you do most of the talking next time. But Women's Premier League, WPL, the San Diego Surfers and Chicago North Shore had to play a doubleheader because of travel reasons in one weekend. I mean, that's not helping anybody. Koma?
That's difficult, and that's one of the challenges of
it ain't sevens.
And the wear and tear on the athletes in terms of player welfare. Is that the best idea for athletes, even though I understand that there's a lot of cost involved? Because I played in the WPL for a number of years, and it wasn't easy putting the coins in the cookie jar to be able to travel on the weekend. But that's something that obviously should be rethought, because you wouldn't want to have an athlete risk injury to save a few $100s on airfare. We need to figure out a way to create the opportunity for athletes to feel comfortable they can compete, but set the platform for it.
Yeah, I mean, is that a standard that the WPL can maybe add in, you know, as a, for you to play, these are the, you can do these, but you don't do these for player welfare's sake. But at the moment, it's up to the teams. The clubs make decision. I mean, I know with New York, if we were to decide anything like that, we'd always go to the players. How would you feel about this? Do we have the numbers? Because player welfare is important, and we're only halfway through the season as well. So it's not ideal, but I think we just want more people playing at that level, and girls are just making sacrifices in different areas. And every day we're just facing them, and every year we want to get better. So hopefully next year they don't have to do the same.
Well, I got to tell you, you guys have been making sacrifices, and they're paying off, because I'm watching the quality of rugby. I saw the quality of coaching that you had with the Navy Sevens team, the men, and I watched the quality of rugby that you helped the women with in the World Cup, and it was just really exciting. And I'm happy to have you both on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've stepped up a notch in class today with these two ladies, folks. On behalf of Tiffany Faaee and Koma Gandy Fischbein, Matt McCarthy for Rugby Wrap Up at the Studio 34 Fantasy Sports Network here on West 35th Street in New York City for Rugby Wrap Up, signing off.